Is the U.S. headed towards a recession? Well, that's a question that many people are asking, especially in light of the recent Q1 GDP numbers that were released that showed that the economy actually shrunk by 0.3%. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but if we take a look at the textbook definition of a recession, then we know that it is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth of GDP. Now, on top of that, JP Morgan Chase has recently come out and said that they believe that there is a 65% chance that we have a recession. Now, we know that no one can come out with 100% certainty and tell us when a recession will occur, and if it does occur, how long the duration of it will last. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over some of the things that I would advise people to be looking for and to be doing to prepare for a possible recession. So the very first thing that I would advise is to either build or rebuild your emergency fund. Now, the rule of thumb that most people follow when it comes to having an emergency fund is to have enough money to cover your bills for 3 to 6 months in a high yield savings account. Now, I think that's a good number to have, and either 3 or 6 months, depending on your risk tolerance. I typically keep 2 to 3 months worth of bills in a high yield savings account, but with a trade war going with no true end in sight, I'm going to be a little bit more on the conservative side, and I'm going to bump that up to 6 months for myself. Now, if you've been to the grocery store or you've been shopping online in the past week or two, then you know that the price for everyday goods have continued to increase. So I'm going to be a little bit more cautious in this area and have a little bit more of a cushion than I normally would, because I know that the price for things are going to continue to go up until the trade war is resolved. So if you don't have an emergency fund or you're working to actually build that out, you want to make sure that you're laser focused on that, because you want to make sure that you have enough money in your account to handle any of these price increases until this trade war is over. Now, the very next thing that I would be focusing on is limiting the amount of money that I'm spending on things that are not essential. So if it's not my mortgage, if it's not groceries or things like that, then I'm just going to limit the amount that I'm spending on that. If I'm going out to eat 3 to 4 days a week, whether that's for lunch or for dinner, then I'm going to cut that back. Maybe I only go once or twice, because I need to make sure that I'm fully focused on task number 1, which is building out my emergency fund. We don't want to get into a position to where we're getting in trouble financially and we don't have the cash to cover it. Every dollar that you can save during this step is going to get you that much closer to building out that fund. Now, the third thing that I would be focusing on is not taking on any additional debt. So I'm not going to be charging anything unnecessarily to my credit card. I'm not doing any buy now, pay later. I'm not opening up any new store charge cards, and I'm absolutely not going and financing a car during this time. When a possible recession is around the corner, debt is going to be the number one enemy to your ability to actually start investing into things that will make you more money in the future. And if you're taking on new debt, then it's going to prevent you from being able to use that money to invest. So I have a question, and maybe somebody out there can help enlighten me on this. But why would we go out and buy a new car and put ourselves into debt and pay 6, 7, 8% interest for up to 72 months for a car because we think the price is going to go up because of the trade war? In my mind, it's better to reduce how much I'm spending during that time and saving as much money as I can, because we know once the trade war ends, once the fears of a recession subside and the economy and the markets go back to normal, we'll have that cash and we can buy those things that we want at much cheaper prices, especially from an interest rate perspective. Somebody help me out with that. Number 4 is diversifying your income. Now, this is where the concept of the side hustle comes into play, and it's something that you can work on building out in the evenings after school or after work. Now, when people used to say, hey man, we're all good at something, that used to really irritate me, because I was always like, I'm not good at anything. Like, what am I good at, right? But if you really look at all of the things that you've done over the course of your life, there is absolutely something that you're good at, and you're good enough to actually make that a business into a side hustle. Now, when we think about side hustles to diversify our income, we always think about big numbers, $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month. But what if you could do a side hustle that brings in an additional $200 to $250 a month? That doesn't seem like a lot of money, But anything additional on top of what you're doing at your 9 to 5 is going to be valuable for you, right? That $250 could be used to buy groceries. It could be used to pay utilities. It could be used to put gas in your car because every little bit helps. I remember a time whenever $200 would have meant the world to me. There's a lot of people out there that might laugh when, oh, $200 is nothing. But let's put this in perspective. If you're a parent out there and you have a kid in daycare, $200 is a lot. If you're a parent and you have an infant at home and you have to buy diapers, $200 goes a long way. Don't sleep on $200. But the point of it is the side hustle can be what you make it, right? It can be as little or as much money added to your monthly income because every little bit helps. So think about ways on how you can diversify your income to make sure you're not just depending on your 9 to 5. Now, this is something that you should be doing regardless if there's a recession on the horizon or not. I always tell people that it's a good idea to not only depend on your 9 to 5, you should always be thinking about having a side hustle and a way to make additional money every single month. All right, so the next thing that I would be focused on is protecting your job. And in addition to protecting your job, working to obtain a new skill. So if you've been paying attention, then you realize that companies have started to lay people off during this downturn in the economy. And the last news report that I was able to take a look at showed that UPS was laying off up to 20,000 people. So if a recession does in fact hit the economy, then you can expect a lot of companies to start laying people off. So this is a time to focus in on the job that you do have, make sure that you're doing a good job. But in addition to that, you want to make sure that you have your resume is updated because you never know, right? Whenever we're working a 9 to 5 job, we have no control over how that workforce is going to be allocated. 1 minute you could be working that job and the next minute they could be laying you off. I can recall early on in my career, I worked in the pharmaceutical industry and layoffs were a way of life, especially for the sales force. So a lot of the fields that are starting to dominate and take off right now are IT related, whether that be computer coding or AI. AI is the new shiny object in the room that everybody is following, and I do not foresee that going away anytime soon. Now, the very next thing that I would be looking to focus on is paying off any high interest debt. So we talked a little bit about not taking on any new additional debts like credit cards or getting a car or doing the buy now, pay later stuff. But now we're going to be focusing on making sure that we pay off any debts that we have, especially the high interest ones. I know that there are people out there that have credit card debt that have an interest rate above 20%. I used to be one of those people, and it is a painful process to try to actually pay that off and get out of debt. So this is now your opportunity to get laser focused on attacking that debt. A lot of people have anxiety when the economy starts to pull back because they're starting to wonder, okay, if I lose my job, I've got all these bills that are racking up. How am I going to pay them? How am I going to pay these bills? And when you have debt that's not necessary for you to live your day-to-day life, it makes the problem 10 times worse. Just think about how easier life would be if all you had was a mortgage. That's all you had to worry about. How much further could your paychecks go if you didn't have to worry about giving it away to the credit card company every single month? It has been about 5 years since I became debt-free outside of my mortgage. And I can tell you there is nothing that will make me go back to having debt. I'm just not going to do it. It's not worth it. And number 7 is continuing to invest. Now, I previously mentioned that when there is a pullback in the market and whenever there's fears of a recession, then the cost of real estate and stocks typically come down. So you want to make sure during this time that you're continuing to invest, whether that's in real estate or in the stock market or investing in yourself or in a business. And although you should continue to invest in whatever investment vehicle that works for you, you want to make sure that you're being smart about it. There's nothing worse than throwing money at an investment that's just a bad investment and you're investing in it just because the price is low because the economy pulled back. You have to be strategic about how we're moving during this time frame. Like I previously said, no one can predict with 100% accuracy when a recession may occur. But these are some of the things that I would be doing to make sure that I'm protecting myself in the event of a recession. So what do you guys think? Comment down below and let me know. What do you think about the 7 things that I laid out? Did I miss anything? Or are there some things that you would add? And if you got some value from this video, hit a like for the algorithm and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.